Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over my Arakni deck tech. I've been messing with this hero a lot in the past couple weeks, really trying to hone in on like what the best build is. And then honestly, after I saw Lucas's stream game and then a couple other Araknis, have some good showings in the Battle Hardens, it really sparked me even more to, put more time into this hero than I already have and really try to hone in on a really as competitive list as I can make it. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on some of my decision points. The list I think is pretty tight. Honestly, I would not change anything. And I am actually contemplating, even though I said Katsu, I'm contemplating running this at the Calling Dallas, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. But if you like this type of content at the end of the video, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out the Patreon and the Discord down below. So, Arakni. A lot of people, I think, obviously I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Arakni is this A or B tier hero or even like a low B tier hero, right? On a tier list from S to D, I think Arakni with a highly skilled pilot in the right meta right now is a high C tier hero, in my opinion. It's definitely not dumpster tier. I've seen a couple tier lists, even from notable, really good players better than me, put Arakni as their worst hero in the meta. I think it's not even close. Arakni is better than Prism, better than Riptide, in my opinion. Yes, Riptide counters some things really well, but when you talk about hero power in a vacuum, I think Arakni is severely undervalued. And I think Arakni is somewhat suffering from the same problem that Katsu suffered from a year back, or when Fi first came out. People were saying, Katsu sucks. Why does Katsu suck? Well, because Fi is better, right? And that was everybody's answer, which is a dumb answer in my opinion. Everybody now is saying, well, Arakni sucks. Okay, well, why does Arakni suck? Well, Uziri is just better. I think that's not a good way of looking at it. Also, I think the gap between those two heroes is closer than people think. If you put Uziri as a low A, high B, and then put Arakni as a D, it doesn't make much sense to me because the heroes are pretty close in my opinion. But we're going to get into it regardless. Arakni says whenever you play a card with contract, you may look at the top card of your opponent's deck. You may put it on the bottom if you so wish. That right there is the reason that I think Arakni is better than people think, because I think a lot of people, when they evaluate Arakni solely with just sheer value, which I get why they do it, right? Because when it comes to card games and when it comes to evaluating decks and cards and heroes, true value is the best way to do it, right? And it's hard to put a value on being able to see the top of your opponent's deck. I put this in the Purple Discord earlier today, but like I was playing against a Dromai last week. I ended up being the Dromai. I ended up fatiguing the Dromai out. And during that game, against a pretty skilled Dromai player, I bottomed a Miragai 3 times, and I bottomed up 3 times. So 0, 2 or 3 times, and I bottomed a Passing Mirage once. Over the course of the game, I avoided them being able to get what is their most powerful piece out several times. And I would not have been able to do that on Uziri. But it's hard to put a value on that, right? And I think good players know how to do that. So I won't go too much into a soapbox on that. I think Arakni is obviously right now in the meta good in Alexi. It does struggle a little bit in the Icelander, although that matchup is not unwinnable by any means. And Dromai does not feel good. But a lot of Dromais are starting to be on the Royal package right now, on kind of the more low to the ground package, and not running straight Big Dragon, which makes the matchup winnable. If so, like Lucas said in the last video, if you see a Dromai turn over Snapdragon Scalers and Crown Dominion, you might have a good chance, not a good chance, but a better chance of beating them. So going into it, though, it's definitely a fatigue-based list. Your primary method of winning is fatigue, obviously. Now, when you say fatigue, that doesn't just mean blocking until they run out of cards. That also means presenting threats that forces them to block or forces banishes or stuff like that, right? And so when it comes to that, I'm being very patient, very calculated, trying to make the most of every single card when it comes to value and really just whittling my opponent down. Because the thing about Arakni is if you pitch stack correctly and you pitch away correctly, Arakni actually gets more powerful as the game goes on because your opponent's stuff whittles out and you still have good threats in deck that do the same thing as every other card in your deck, which is banish. Not every card, but a lot of cards. And it really doesn't matter whether you're attacking with a blue late game or a red. You're threatening the same type of thing, right? So when it comes to the equipment, most of this is pretty standard. I have Black Tech Whispers and Mask of Perdition. No surprises there. When it comes to the chest piece, we're running Tunic, of course, not Redback Shroud, although I want to somehow, some way, at some point make Redback Shroud work, but it's just not good enough right now in comparison to Tunic. Regardless, Tunic's the obvious inclusion. When it comes to the arm piece, I am actually running both Flick Knives and Shriek Razors. I think Shriek Razors is definitely an Arakni card. It is not meant for Uziri, in my opinion, at least the current way the decks are built right now. But it does do really well with Arakni. This card is very indicative of what Arakni is. Arakni has a bunch of implied value. Arakni has a bunch of value that you can't quantify sometimes by making your opponent ask a question. It's just like Katsu. Every time Katsu puts up a Surging Strike or puts up a starter, right, that can combo into something, you are telling your opponent a couple things. You're going to say, are you not going to block me? And I'm going to make you pay for it by dealing more damage and more on hit effects, which is what Arakni does. Are you going to try to cheat and exact block me, which I have a lot of reactions in my deck, just like Arakni, and I will make you pay for it, or are you going to overblock me, which then just plays into my game plan anyway, right? The same questions you ask with Katsu, you ask with Arakni. And Shriek Razor is very indicative of that, especially against some of the faster decks. Basically, the best way to look at it when it comes to Shriek Razors, Flick Knives, I think Shriek Razors is better in the fast matchups. It allows you to have a block, but also be able to present the effect if you need to. A lot of the fast matchups like Lexi and Katsu and Phi, and even Reinar are going to be blocking a lot with attack actions when they do block. So this effect is a lot more applicable. But you also get the one block without losing the equipment in the fast matchup. In these slower matchups, I am using Flick Knives. This is a game ender. This is a way to get around defense reactions. Right, we're using this in a lot of other different matchups, like Icelander and like Bravo. Even in Dromai, I'll use this. So for that reason, slower matchups, we're using Flick Knives. Faster matchups, we're using Shriek Razors. And I do think having both of them is worth the slot because they definitely both have better value in different matchups. For the daggers, we're using the typical Nerve Scalpel and Spirus Bite. However, I do have Orbital Cast in the sideboard. This is really good in the Icelander, like Lucas said in the interview. I highly go suggest look at my last video and check it out. It's also really good in a couple other decks. It's actually pretty decent in a Bravo. Bravo likes to block with a lot of non-attacks. It's good into a couple decks that don't run a lot of defense reactions, right? Like I'll even, when it comes to decks like Phi and Lexi, I'll run Orbital Cast instead of Nerd Scalpel because they're not going to be using a whole lot of defense reactions. The only defense reaction you might see from Lexi is Tar Pit Trap. And the only defense reaction you might see from Phi is maybe Sink Blows. But it's not common, and it's not enough in order to run Nerd Scalpel. I'd much rather be able to run this, so if I have to dagger late game, I'm affecting all cards in their hand. So that's the equipment. Then we run AB3 with Lantern, Boots, and Gloves. Pretty standard there. When it comes to the deck, I wanted to do this top-down initially because I like the way that I can structure things when you're looking top-down. So first we'll talk about power cards. Arakni has 15 power cards. 3, 6, more than that. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19 power cards in the deck. So we have Already Dead, the newest inclusion, contract to banish opponent's non-action cards. Sorry, not non-attack, that's Slay a Scholar. Non-action cards, so like defense reactions and instants and attack reactions even. If you banish those, you create a silver. So it has a little bit of Nyx the Nimble in it. It has a little bit of being able to banish silver. If you banish instants, you can banish equipment with it. If they try to block with equipment, and you can make them pay for it. Basically, when they see this card, they can't use equipment to block unless they're super confident they can overblock enough in order to guarantee not having this. But having this card combined with a Shred or Cut to the Chase is just money, especially if they're ballsy enough to block with equipment and they lose their equipment because of it. Really, really good for that. A lot of opponents actually right now are running instants in their deck, right? Azalea's running Sigils. Lexi's running Rain Razors. Even Bravos are running Sigils. Icelander has several instants in her deck. So, like, there's definitely easy, and a lot of people are running reaction cards, whether attack or defense reactions. So this has a lot of being able to create silver more than you think, and it's a 6 power block 3, just really good. The other are the standard power cards. You have Command and Conquer, Leave No Witnesses, Eradicate, Surgical Extraction, and then we're running a 1 of Death Touch. Basically, we're trying to block with this as early as humanly possible, get it all, or play it from Arsenal if we can, and then be able to codex it. This is our one of our top codex targets. So having one of these in the deck is definitely worth it to have a good late game 6 power codex turn off Tunic, and just being able to really outvalue your opponent that way. When it comes to general contract cards, Annihilate the Arm is one of the most consistent ways to generate silver. most of our contracts that aren't power cards like Leave No Witnesses, Surgical, and Eradicate, we're trying to run contract cards that have the highest chance of generating silver and the highest chance of hitting overall when our opponent lets us do it. Annihilate the Arm gives us that. Pretty much every deck runs attack actions with the exception of like one or two. So really high chance of doing silver. And then Slay the Scholars, every deck is running non-attacks, right? For the most part. So those two are really consistent silver generators. They were running Plunder the Poor. Unless you're playing against a Bravo, every major deck in the format right now is running cards that cost one or less, whether it's Katsu, Azalea, Lexi, Dromai. All of them are running it very consistently. So this is really good. If the meta became way more tankier with way more high-cost cards, then you could switch this out for Rob the Rich, of course. So that's our power cards and our contract cards. We're also running, now going into the reactions, we'll go general attacks. We're running 3 Enlightened Strikes, just a really good flexible card. Allows you to play 0 for 5 go again into something else. Allows you to play 0 for 7 off a top or 2 card 7. It allows you to draw a card, which you don't really use too often, honestly, unless someone gives you a Quicken token. But overall, this is a really flexible card. For reactions, both attack and defense reactions, Cut to the Chase Red is really, really good. Definitely not leaving the deck. This is a couple things. One, it's how you get over the top against people that are good value blockers against you to be able to banish cards. If someone blocks an already dead for 6, blocking with 2 cards, you play Cut to the Chase. They don't have a defense reaction. You activate Mask of Erudition. You just got rid of 4 cards from their deck, counting what they blocked with, and you're able to, really hone in. Also, when people use stuff like Unmovable against you or Sync, and they do it on Already Dead, and you're still able to get over the top with Cut to the Chase, then you're able to banish that Sync in order to make silver with Already Dead. So it has a lot of use cases. We're only running the red because what I find with people that are more seasoned is they'll usually overblock you by 3 because they're trying to play around, if they're going to block, because they're trying to play around Yellow Shred and Cut to the Chase. So running the yellows isn't as useful because it only gives you +2. So like if I play Plunder the Poor for 4 and then they block 6, yellow Cut to the Chase isn't going to get over the top, right? And I found that a lot of times most of the time they'll either block with a 4-power defense reaction and hope you don't have a reaction, or they'll block with 2-3 blocks, right? Which if you didn't dagger prior to that. So because of that, we're trying to be most efficient as we can and only run 3 red Cut to the Chases. We then have for reactions Sink Below and Fate Foreseen. Pretty simple there. We're only running 2 sigils. The card's so good. It was just a ratio thing. I wanted to have a 1 of Death Touch, so because of that, I took out 1 sigil because of that. But you could easily have 3 sigils in here. Then we have Codex of Frailty, which is the other power card. I said 18 power cards in the deck, right? We have Leave No Witnesses, 3 copies, 3 copies of Eradicate, 3 copies of Surgical, 3 copies of Already Dead, 3 copies of Command and Conquer, so that's 15. And then the last power card, obviously, is Codex of Frailty. So good. I will say with this card, and it's one thing I've had other Araknis tell me, is be careful with this card because it is really, really good, obviously. The reason it's so good in cards like Azalea is because you don't care what you arsenal, because you can get rid of that arsenal, right? And it's so good even in Lexi because you don't care what you arsenal. You can get rid of it in some way, shape, or form. There are certain targets you don't want to arsenal in this deck, right? You don't want to arsenal Shreds. You don't want to arsenal, most of the time, Warmonger's Diplomacy. And you ideally don't want to arsenal a blue. So, you have to be careful when you put Codex Frailty in your deck that you're building your deck to where you're comfortable, for the most part, arsenaling any card in your deck. The only cards I would not want to, honestly, definitely don't want to arsenal if I can help it, is Shred, because if they don't block you, the card gets stuck there. If you're not running Crown of Providence. So because of that, you just got to be careful. Don't run too many. You have to, when you put Codex in your deck, look at the rest of your deck and be like, okay, am I comfortable arsenaling every single other card in this deck? If the answer is yes, then you're good. Obviously, not every card's probably going to answer that question yes, but you have to do it as much as you can. So that's the main board, 57 cards. We typically go over 60 cards in every matchup. I don't have a full sideboard guide on here. I will. I'm really bad at building sideboard guides. I will say it's pretty simple, though. For my sideboard, I have 3 Frailty Traps, 3 Oasis, 3 Unmovable, and 3 Remembrance, and then the equipment we went over earlier. For ninjas, it's just a straight race. I put in 3 Frailty Traps, right? I also, for Lexi, will put in 3 Frailty Traps. And that's it. I run a straight 60 against those heroes. I don't care if they run 72 cards against me. If you're playing correctly, you will catch them in cards, I promise. They're going to have to block more than you do. And because of that, you'll be able to be fine. If you're a little bit hesitant, maybe run like one Remembrance with it. But I usually go straight 60 into Lexi, into Ninjas. Into Dromai, I normally, it's hard because you go to fatigues. I normally put in everything. It's not ideal to run. I just don't put on movables usually, but I'll put in 3 Oasis going up to 60, 3 Frailty Traps going to 63, and then Remembrance going to 66. Frailty Trap doesn't do a whole lot against Dromai. It's just I need the card pool in order to outlast the fatigue. So that's kind of how I go with there. When it comes to Bravo, Bravo's the one matchup. I personally think Bravo is more of a unwinnable matchup than Dromai. The deck's just so good into you. All they have to do is block 6, swing 6, block 6, swing 6, wait till they have a power turn with Starstruck or with Crippling, and then just smack you. It's, in my opinion, it's more of auto loss than Dromai. But regardless, with Bravo, I'll put in Frailty Trap, Oasis, and Unmovable, and go up to 66 cards. And then, let's see, Lexi and Ninjas is just Frailty Trap. Bravo, I put in all of these. Dromai, I put in everything except Unmovable. And also in Dromai, I'll put in No Rune Gloves to be able to combat burn them all. Let's see what else is. Rhinar, normally, I just go straight. I usually just put in Frailty Trap to have a little bit more. Or I'll actually not Frailty Trap, but usually put in Oasis because you can respond to an Intimidate with Oasis and be able to like pitch and block before they intimidate it away. So that's really, really good. Azalea, I'm running Unmovables and Frailty Traps, going up to 63 cards. What else is a meta deck right now? That's pretty much it for the most part. I'll try to put some light sideboard notes. The deck link you see below, at the time of watching this, you probably won't have a full sideboard guide, but I'll build it out, and I'll update that in the Discord when I do finish it. That way I can give you all some stuff. But yeah, I'm actually thinking about running this for Dallas, not because I think it's better than Katsu. I think if I wanted to win, I'm going to run Katsu because I just know the deck so well. The deck's really good into Dromai. It has a good Lexi matchup, at least a winnable Lexi matchup, a winnable Bravo matchup, so on and so forth. But I just love Arakni so much. I said this on Twitter. I love Katsu. Everyone that's sitting here, not everyone, the majority of the people sitting here watching me right now are probably for my Ninja content. But you know, I love who I love when it comes to the game, and I'm loving Arakni. It's just thematically, art style, play style, all of it. It's my favorite deck, and it's something that I'm heavily contemplating. I still haven't made 1,000% decision yet at the time of recording this, which is Monday night. But overall, it's pretty favored to Arakni right now. If not, then Katsu, and my third crazy random pick was actually Rhinar because I enjoy that deck as well. But Arakni's leading the pack right now. If I can get run to Lexis and even run to Ninjas, I feel pretty good. It's just if I run to Dromais and Bravos, but I think most decks in the format have to pick what they're good into right now, and kind of go with that. Why I run this over Uziri, I just enjoy the thematics better. I enjoy the play style of contracts and reactions better than just flip of Uziri. The Uziri game plan, although fun, is not as exciting to me as Arakni. So because of that, that's just where I'm at. But I do think the deck's closer to Uziri than people think. I really do. Do I think Uziri's better? Yes. But not by as much as people think. I definitely don't think Arakni is the worst hero in the format. Not even close. That's just my opinion, though. But yeah. Hopefully this deck tech was pretty good. I wanted to kind of get it out and get my thoughts on it. I'm pretty confident in this deck. I don't think there's anything I would change. If I changed anything, it would just be for fun testing. But if I were to go to Dallas tomorrow, this would be the deck I would take without any changes. So let me know what your thoughts are. I love to hear it. I'm really excited to talk to other Araknis too, and kind of get their thoughts and their feedback. But overall, super excited about the list. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, it's totally fine. Go to our Fleshbud Career, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff so we get more people seeing this game. And I'll see y'all next time on TC Talk. Thank y'all so much. Have a good night.